Part 1: The Party. The sun had long set over Lagos, and the hum of the city thrummed like a heartbeat beneath the cool evening air. Inside the lavish hotel ballroom, a vibrant party was underway. Colorful lights danced on the walls, and the sounds of laughter and clinking glasses filled the room. Among the crowd, Zara adjusted her fitted dress, feeling both out of place and excited. As the secretary to the formidable Adam Smith, she had been invited to the company's annual gala, a rare chance to let loose and enjoy herself. Adams was notorious in the office. Cold and calculating, he was known for avoiding women and his agitation when a woman tries to touch or seduce him. Many whispered that he harbored a deep belief that emotions cloud judgment, and as a result, he often kept people at arm's length. Zara had always respected that, after all, she was ambitious and determined to climb the corporate ladder. But tonight, with the festive atmosphere swirling around her, she felt a flicker of rebellion. As the night progressed, Zara found herself navigating the crowd, mingling with colleagues, and letting the rhythm of the music sweep her away. She poured herself another drink, the sweet wine warming her cheeks and loosening her inhibitions. The laughter of her coworkers faded into a distant hum as she spotted Adams across the room, his presence commanding attention even in a casual setting. He stood at the bar, a drink in hand, his icy demeanor barely softened by the festive atmosphere. She could see the subtle frown on his lips as he exchanged words with a few executives. Zara's heart raced. She had never thought much about Adams beyond his stern exterior, but the wine emboldened her. Maybe tonight, she would see a different side of him. Zara approached the bar, her pulse quickening. "Mr. Smith," she said, raising her glass. "To another successful year." He turned, a glimmer of surprise in his eyes, quickly masked by his usual stoic expression. "Zara," he replied, his voice smooth but distant. "Are you enjoying the party?" Surprisingly, yes, she laughed, the sound bubbling out of her, unrestrained. "You should join us, you know. Lighten up a little." Adams chuckled softly, a sound she had rarely heard from him. "I prefer to observe." "Why not be part of the fun?" she challenged, her voice rising slightly over the music. The tension in the air shifted, something unspoken lingering between them. Adams studied her for a moment, the mask of indifference slipping ever so slightly. The alcohol coursed through her veins, embodying her. "What's stopping you?" He met her gaze, an intensity flickering in his dark eyes. "You wouldn't understand," he said finally, taking a sip of his drink. "Try me," Zara shot back, the challenge igniting something within her. With a slight nod, Adams motioned for another drink. They toasted once more, and as the evening wore on, the distance between them began to close. They exchanged stories, each laughed and shared secrets, deepening the connection that had been so tightly wound. But as midnight approached, the atmosphere shifted. Zara felt dizzy from the drinks, and her inhibitions began to slip away completely. The music pulsed louder, the crowd more frenetic, and she found herself pulled closer to Victor, their shoulders brushing. The world around them blurred, and the tension crackled like electricity. She felt a warmth radiating from him, a spark of something primal that was impossible to ignore. As she looked into his eyes, she realized he was no longer just her boss, he was a man caught in a moment of vulnerability, just as she was. Before she knew it, Adams leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. "Let's get out of here," he murmured. Zara's heart raced, a mixture of exhilaration and fear flooding her senses. As she nodded, they slipped away from the party, stumbling into the quiet corridors of the hotel, laughter trailing behind them like shadows. The hallway was dimly lit, and Zara felt a rush of adrenaline as she and Adams navigated through the winding passages. Each step felt daring, and the excitement of the unknown spurred her on. They finally reached his room, and Adam fumbled with the keycard, his usual precision dulled by drink. "Here, let me," Zara offered, her hand steady despite the chaos swirling inside her. She swiped the card, and the door clicked open. Once inside, the atmosphere shifted again. The air was thick with unspoken tension, and the music from the party faded into a distant echo. Adams turned to her, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his features. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, his voice low. Zara felt a rush of courage. "We are adults. Just one night. No strings." He studied her for a moment, searching her eyes for any hint of regret. But all he saw was a fiery determination. He stepped closer, and the heat between them ignited. Before they could second-guess themselves, Zara found herself pressed against the wall, Victor's lips crashing against hers. The kiss was electric, a collision of desires that had long been buried beneath layers of professionalism. Their hands explored hesitantly at first, but as the kiss deepened, the hesitance melted away. Zara felt her heart race as Adam's hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer as if she were the only thing grounding him in that moment. The world outside ceased to exist, all that mattered was the intoxicating connection between them. But just as quickly as it had ignited, a flicker of doubt danced at the edges of her mind. Would he regret this in the morning? Would it change everything between them? Before she could voice her fears, Adams pulled away slightly, his forehead resting against hers. "Zara," he breathed, a mixture of desire and vulnerability in his eyes. "This is unexpected." She smiled softly, brushing her fingers across his cheek. "It doesn't have to mean anything. Just tonight." He nodded slowly, but she could see the conflict in his expression. The tension shifted, but it wasn't entirely broken. They fell into another kiss, more urgent this time, the heat between them reigniting. As they stumbled towards the bed, the boundaries between them blurred, and Zara felt herself losing control in the most exhilarating way. But just as they fell into the sheets, the weight of reality crashed down on her. She thought of the office, the way their colleagues would talk, and the delicate balance of power that hung between them. The thought sent a shiver through her. "Adams," she whispered, pulling back slightly. "What if?" He silenced her with another kiss, more intense, as if he could erase her doubts with his lips. In that moment, the world outside vanished again, and all that remained was the two of them, tangled in a moment that felt both reckless and right. But as the night wore on, and passion consumed them, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into uncharted territory. Would they emerge from this as something more, or would it merely be a fleeting encounter lost in the haze of drunkenness? As dawn approached, the lines between desire and reality blurred. She held onto him tightly, and for the first time, Zara allowed herself to believe that perhaps there was going to be more than just a one-night stand with her code boss. Like, comment and share for part 2.